do have to follow through clicking review, clicking approve. It's like a 2-3 step process, okay? So let's just double check. As you can see, the July 1st, 2020 ComHab monthly note, the status here is that it's reviewed on your end. So it's approved. So once you see that green sign, it'll let you know that you completely signed it. Okay. Let's see, any questions on monthly notes before I go on? Let's see, any messages? Let me double check participants, no new participants. Okay. All right, so I'll move on to broker summaries. I know that oftentimes families, for some reason, and I mean, I would do the same thing too, go to broker documentation. And I know that when you go on, it makes sense when you go onto the screen, any services that are tallied up here. Let's see if I can pull up any services that are tallied up here. I know that families click on them individually, and there is an option for you to approve it that way. But this is, if for some reason on the FI end, it just doesn't show. Technically it should count, I agree, but the way to approve broker summaries is by going to SDS, go to your SDS summary tab, and that's that screen that gives you like a snapshot of, you know, all of the services. Okay, you know, just your expenditures and, you know, the list of your budgets. But if in that same summary screen, if you scroll all the way to the bottom where it says brokerage billing summary, this is how you approve brokerage summaries. So you're gonna click on the billing period, and you're just simply, you know, obviously you're gonna review all of this, and then you're going to click review. Are you sure you wanna review the summary? Yes. So, which I find it to be easier than you having to go to, you know, broker documentation and click on each service, the broker reports they provided, session by session. You would just go to again, just make sure that you go to your SDS summary screen, scroll all the way to the bottom, click on that billing period, approve, click review, and then that green check right there is what's going to notify me that you've reviewed and approved the brokerage billing for the month in question. Okay. Any questions on that so far? Okay. So I think I'm just gonna check every slide and see if we have any participants.
Don't mind back. Excuse me, Jennifer.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm sorry, I don't know. How do you ask questions? Do you prefer the questions be put in the chat?
No, just go, yeah. So everyone, yeah, I'm sorry, especially since Linda and I are trying to figure this out, just unmute yourselves and ask me a question. And at the end, I'll try to just go through the chat, anything that I may have missed, but just unmute yourselves.
Okay, so just ask, can I ask you a question really quickly? So if you have, so broker invoices are monthly.
Yes.
But if you don't have, for instance, Robert doesn't have a ComHab worker during this sheltered in period.
Right.
So that portion, you don't have to do anything if you don't have a ComHab worker.
Well, on our end, yes, that's a good question, Jerry, thanks. So on our end, yes, we're going to require a monthly note by the 10th of the following month. The difference in your case, Jerry, is the monthly note would simply state on that description box, you're just going to say that there's presently no staffing, what is the reason, and what are the efforts in trying to, you know, gather some staffing in there again. Does that make sense?
So there has to be a note stating, I plug in that note that there is no, we are not, Robert is not being accommodated with a ComHab worker.
Right.
And I would have to do that every month?
Yeah, so monthly notes, it's open in your circle. It's open to be it something you complete, or you can discuss with your broker. If you requested, we would grant access for the broker to complete those every month. Now, and typically what we recommend is when the service is taking place. So say you had, you know, I forgot your staff's name, but you had an active staff there. They also have the access to complete it on their end as well. It's just something that you would designate on your end, who would complete that.
And I think the reason for doing it, even though no service was provided, is just to have a record of why. So, you know, you saying that during this COVID-19 pandemic, the ComHab service is not being requested by you and your son, I think that's sufficient. And then this way, you know, 2-3 years into it, if somebody's looking back, that will explain why there's no service provided.
Does that make sense, Joe? Okay, but that's a good, I'm great. I'm glad you asked that, because yes, we're going to request that monthly note each month. And for those folks that are not receiving services, just go ahead and use this brief summary description box to indicate the why.
Jennifer, excuse me, it's Denise. I got in late. I just missed like what you actually say you're supposed to write there, because I think a lot of times we don't really write it that much in there.
Yeah, that's fine. So what you're gonna capture in the monthly note is just a summary of services. So if, you know, your child is working on money management, let's say, you know, just make sure you click the appropriate boxes.
Right, yeah, I always do that, right.
Yeah,
okay.
and that you're capturing on the summary, you know, money management this month, he took a few visits to the bank, staff assisted with counting change, he still needs help in the area of differentiating the bills. We'll continue to work on it, you know, just.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right,
yeah, and for those that don't have staffing, again, you're gonna say no staffing due to, let's say, pandemic, in this case, efforts to stabilize staffing, conducting interviews or something.
Okay, all right, great, thanks.
Okay, yeah, and then brokerage invoices, again, approve it by the month, not by the individual service. And then Linda, I'll turn this part over to you. Is that okay?
So, just so you to understand the way that we bill the FI fee. So for people that are in the startup phase, the only service that is needed for us to bill an FI fee is the broker services. So as long as the broker is providing some level of service, we can go ahead and bill that FI fee each month. For folks that are in the level 3, which is most of you, if you have a level 3 budget, we can bill the FI monthly fee if there is the self-hired staff indicated in the budget. So that's one element. And the second element is one other service being billed. So so that might be I'm sorry, if FI is mentioned in the budget, but you don't have staff in place because you're just starting out and you're interviewing people, just let us know and we will indicate in the system your efforts to recruit staff. We also indicate if we are onboarding staff, so you might notice some comments in the expenditure report. So if you have staff listed in the budget, but you don't currently have somebody actively punching in and out, we'll make notes and we'll ask you to provide that information to us. That plus another service, meaning like an invoice that you submitted for the month or broker for the month, will allow us to bill that FI fee. You know, it's just helpful for us because we try to plan a budget for the year based upon how many individuals we're supporting. It just helps to support our expenses in the back office. So, you know, we are not going to be able to bill if there's been no services provided. So we'll just talk to you about that. We understand that that's going to happen, and there's good reasons for that happening. We just want to try to encourage people to consider, you know, utilizing the budget. And again, in the very least, you know, having your broker help you in whatever areas, you know, and they can bill for that service at a minimum, you know, that will work for us. Okay.
Yeah. So, and then here are just some points, you know, it can be, you know, the broker assisting with planning and making sure that they bill on time for this. You know, areas they can assist with self-hired staffing, I know advocacy, just, you know, emails, they can reach out to us, of course, anything outside the box, any supports we can, or guidance we can provide. As a reminder, staff can still, you know, are considered essential workers. Of course, to what extent you're comfortable with that, or face-to-face sessions would look like. You know, you can always reach out to us as to what precautions we're, or CDC, the most current guidelines we're following or sharing with staff to implement in sessions. The telehealth model is still an option for you individuals or families, you know, that it's appropriate for. Virtual classes has kind of become the new norm, and, you know, we are approving those, so long, of course, as all of the elements are met. Reimbursement requests, of course, are another way to utilize the budget. So I did want to quickly review a note on just a note on reimbursement requests. I wanted to share this, and let me go back to the portal, and hopefully this can make
Jen,
some yeah.
I'm sorry, Lori had a question, so please go over the second step needed for the broker invoice approval when brokers have access to the individual's portal.
But,
so if a broker is supporting the individual and the family to approve expenses, how are we requesting that the broker invoice be approved? I mean, that obviously the broker cannot approve their
yeah,
own.
Lori knows. Lori, thanks for asking us to having me touch on that. So for any brokers that are granted access to these individual family portals, we do, you know, technically this means that the broker has access to all of this information. So just for security purposes, any broker documentation for those brokers you have granted access to your parental portal, we are going to ask for an extra step. We're going to ask that you reply all and approve their invoices via email. You can, of course, go in here and approve their invoice, but for us to pay reimburse it to the broker, we're going to ask that the broker download the invoice, that they email it, and that you reply all stating you approve. And this is just to, you know, obviously confirm that you're approving the invoice because they do have access to your portal. Okay, so that is an extra step for families that do grant access to brokers to utilize the portal, which brokers may have access to help you with your invoicing and monthly notes. Okay, so thanks, Lori. All right, so a note on reimbursements. Most of you at this point know that to enter a reimbursement request, you're gonna go to invoice, SDS invoice, and you know, say I'm gonna click that plus sign and enter a new request. I just wanted to touch briefly on how to consolidate these requests, because I know sometimes, oftentimes parents will, there's on average, a few things that tend to happen. The first thing, you don't ever have to touch this date. Oftentimes I know families, individuals may enter the date that the services occurred. So maybe they went to a class back on June 1st. You don't need to do that. Just don't, in fact, you don't ever really have to touch the date. Just keep the date as what it is, as we go by the dates you enter the request. Okay, so this never changes. Programs. If you are going to request, or you're going to submit a request that's reimbursable to you, okay, if you're the person it's going to be paid out to, and it's within the same program and it's within the same category, okay, you can just consolidate it into one lump sum. So say I want to request a cooking class, well, I can't attach it, but say I want to request a reimbursement for a cooking class and swimming classes for the month of July 2020, I can simply just upload those two invoices, you know, together. Just throw whatever in there I can. Let's see. So, you know, you could just combine all of the invoices attach all of them together, combine all of the invoices together and do, you know, your one grand total of, you know, let's say $300. So the idea of this is that if it's within the same program and category, you don't have to separate cooking class into one invoice, swimming class into one invoice. You can simply consolidate them together into one fee, which I would think would, for reimbursement purposes, may be easier for you also, as you'll receive just one check or one direct deposit, as opposed to, you know, a fee for each different class you are requesting. But again, I know that this is only possible if it's within the same program category and if it's reimbursable to you. If you're requesting that we pay it out to a vendor, then obviously that's different. You know, they're gonna be reimbursed for specifically what they billed for. Okay. So again, on reimbursements, they're due the 10th of the following month. So by August 10th, we'll be looking for the submission of all July reimbursement requests. But that's not to say, again, you can submit expense requests as often as you'd like. You know, the rule of thumb is just to make sure you have everything for the prior month by the 10th of the following month. We just touched on combining expenses, so we're gonna go past that. And then reminder, we only pay out utilized services. So, you know, oftentimes I may see a request for a packet of 10 classes, but only 5 were utilized. So just a reminder that we can only pay for what was used. So I know it's ideally more convenient to buy a packet, but you do have the option of, we can pay those out as they are utilized. So if you bought a packet of 10 classes for swimming, and you have attended 5 so far, and you submit your proof of attendance along with what the packet cost, we'll reimburse you for the 5 or as you go. So you do have that option. OTPS, utilities, reminder on that. We pay the portion that corresponds to the individual. So we're looking at the monthly charges. The verification that the payment was made. So so Conedison, electricity, typically we go by that part of the bill that says monthly charges from, you know, July to July 31st. And we're gonna, you know, divide that by the 4 people you reported that live in the household, and we're gonna pay that fourth.
Jennifer, can I ask you something about that, about the utilities? Does that has to be in the budget somewhere on a line? What? Or
yeah. So typically, let's see if there's.
I don't think I have that, but I just wondered if I could ever move one. I don't know, but it's under OTPS, so that's.
Yeah, so budgets do have something that's called, other than, those are the state funds, OTPS, other than personal services.
And you would think I would know this by now, but anyway.
Okay.
I mean, I know it.
So if you look here, OTPS breaks down into clothing, internet, personal use, transportation, phone service.
Yeah, right, okay.
Yeah, and utilities. So yes, those, you know, if it's listed and justified in the life plan, and it's something per the guidelines that the individual is entitled to, then yes, funds can be put there.
All right, okay. It has to be in the life plan too. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Okay, and then just a final note on transportation, it must be goal related, and just provide a little more description. Especially in the area of, you know, OTPS, personal use transportation, oftentimes, you know, I may have a family indicate, you know, visit family, which is great, but, you know, let's try to tie it back to the life plan, visit family, to increase socialization skills. So, you know, let's just remember to reiterate it back to what the life plan is saying, you are utilizing OTPS, personal use transportation, for. Okay, so in the case of IDGS transportation, we know that's to use kind of transportation to and from these classes or other activities within that category. So it would be something like, you know, IDGS transportation to and from my personal skills training. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna, before I move on to time cards, any questions so far?
There was a question in the chat related to, can the goal related be community engagement if you're going out by yourself? Absolutely. What we would just recommend everybody doing is when you have the life plan reviews, just make sure that the broker and you pay attention to all the things in the budget and that there is some connection. So even if in the narrative it says, you know, individual will be using personal use transportation, to visit family or to go to places that they like on their own, you know, that's fine. As long as there's a sentence in there that can be connected back, that's all we would request.
Okay. Any more questions? Mm-hmm.
Question. Robert has a very, he has an expensive grocery bill because of his multiple allergies linked back to his diagnosis. So in restructuring for the fall, for the new, you know, his new budget, one of the things that I discussed that we're going to do is that Robert will, I will be able to submit for reimbursement for food, because Robert's food bills are shy under $1,000 a month because of the gross allergies that he has to additives and ingredients that are found in a lot of products. So it's in his life plan now. It's a new addition to his life plan. When submitting reimbursement for that, it would go there, or is this, it would go in, because I didn't see a category for that.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar, Jerry, with the background on that one. So what's going to happen is, and this goes back to budget amendments. When there are any proposed changes, depending on what the changes are, there's going to be a series of things we're going to request, and which Faye as the broker is very aware of. And one of the major parts is justifying Robert's need on the life plan. But in addition to that, there were a list of other things that she would get back to me with. And once that occurs, we as the FI review all of those elements that they are in place and justified. And then we submit these requests to the DDRO, to the state. Once they review and hopefully approve, your portal would be updated with the newly approved budget, at which point you would then see and be able to enter those requests. And in your case, it's going to be called the board stipend, but you're not going to see that yet until that service is hopefully approved.
So it gets approved and then it gets updated into eVero for him so that it could be submitted.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that's why I don't see it. Okay, cool.
Right.
No, because I was like, I don't see where at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing with the portal, just everyone. So when you submit a request, it's only going to allow you to submit a request for what's approved on your budgets. Okay. Okay. So now I'm gonna touch on time cards again. The rule of thumb is that we review these time cards weekly. We recommend Friday after the last shift ends or Saturday mornings to allow timely processing of the payroll and for us and you or your staff to make any necessary revisions. Quick review on how to approve your staff's time. You would go into your SDS tab, attendance roster, and just make sure that you're selecting the program. Some budgets have multiple programs, so make sure you are going into each and every one of them to approve time. Most popular one is ComHab. And then, staff already know when they're employed by us, but, if anyone needs me to resend the payroll periods, Unfortunately, Evero doesn't populate this for you. That would be nice, but just make sure you're always looking for the current pay periods. So in this case, I think our new pay period started the 18th. So you would go back to the 18th, keep today's date current, click refresh, and it'll generate the sessions for you. So these are just some mock sessions I entered here, but it's important, you know, look to see that, you know, the start and stop times are what they're supposed to be. And if there's ever anything in red here, you shouldn't really be approving it, because it means that the information is incomplete. Oftentimes staff may forget to enter the session, meaning the service count, meaning the goals. So this may be in red. So you know, make sure you communicate to them that each week they are entering their times correctly, start, stop time, that they're entering all of the services before you go in and approve. So in this case, these sessions here, they're completely filled out and sessions were entered. So you would just click that individual review box. You would click review. Are you sure you want to review the selected attendance? Yes. And that's all you're doing each week. Every Friday, Saturday, just go in there, review that all elements are correct and completely, that they're thoroughly completed. You're gonna then review it. Indirect hours, there's typically nothing really here, but what you might see, let's say, in the next couple of weeks is we are gonna have a self-hired staff training for them. So some of them may want to bill for that as indirect time, and you may have to approve that here. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to go through each of these programs and just making sure, you know, that you approve everything that needs to be approved. Now, a note on time cards also is, you know, sometimes what happens with staff is they go in after the fact to enter all of their sessions, which is not contemporaneous per the Medicaid standards. So, you know, just make sure to have discussions with them to enter their sessions while they're, you know, working with you or your individuals. Make sure that they're clocking in, they're clocking out. Before they clock out, they enter their services. If for some reason they can't do that during the session, that they do that sometime later during the day, but the services should be captured contemporaneously, okay? Especially sometimes you'll find that we are reaching out to you to approve time and you tell us that you did already, and sometimes what's happening is they're going in after you're done reviewing and approving, entering additional sessions. So, you know, a bit of a system would be helpful here to just, you know, stress to your staff to enter their sessions each day, and that by Friday or Saturday at such and such time, everything must be in for you to review and approve, okay?
Jen, can I just say something? Just want to reiterate. So what Jennifer said is we're requesting that you guys do the approvals weekly. The biweekly, we still pay on a biweekly basis. So at the end of the biweekly period has to be done. We figure suggesting it at minimum of once a week would be helpful for you to, you know, for us to make sure it gets done and just get into that rhythm and routine. The other thing I wanted to point out, and we will have another session on this, the federal government has a mandate for all of the states to comply with EVV. I'm sure some of you have heard of EVV. It stands for electronic visit verification. It's a required, there's 5 elements that have to be met when staff punch in and out. The location has to be captured. They have to do it in real time. So Evero, which is the system, I know they sound similar, Evero, the system that we use, is already EVV compliant, meaning once the state and the feds give the go live, which at this point in time is January 1, you know, we'll just be able to flip the switch on and staff, you know, will be in compliance. What that means though is staff will have to only use the mobile app. So for those of you who have staff that are using the portal to enter time, you know, we would recommend that you push them over to use the mobile app. Now, I know there's a lot of strong feelings about EVV, which, you know, we only have 15 more minutes to today's meeting. Like I said, we will absolutely have another session to discuss it. And if for some reason they do not move forward with EVV, then obviously that'll be a non-issue. But at this point in time, that's the plan. And when that happens, the mobile app will be required and the location will need to be turned on. So so again, yeah, EVV. When doing the virtual services, no, the location is not. So that's a very good point. This telehealth option that we're using currently is new to the pandemic. You know, our hope is that that will continue to be allowed, and we will find out the EVV requirements for telehealth. Thank you. That's an excellent point. Okay, that's my
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So and then just final few points on the whole time card thing. Just make sure with your service, with the service count, that staff are reporting a habilitative goal. So, you know, oftentimes, and this tends to happen, you know, Ibero populates this thing here called emergency service, provide support during COVID. And oftentimes staff will report that this was the service they provided, an emergency service, but that's not really goal related. So, you know, just make sure that when staff are reporting in the area of community habilitation, that their service counts are specifically for habilitative goals. Now, at least one habilitative goal is required for the session to count. Of course, they can enter more, or safeguards, any support with safeguards, that's fine. But the rule of thumb is that at least one habilitative goal must have occurred in the session for it to count, okay? A reminder on self-hired respite. This does not require service counts, so you're always going to see a start time, a stop time, and all that stuff, but the service count column is always going to be red. It's always going to say 0 out of 0. And for respite, that is fine. Respite does not require any kind of goal entry or services, okay? So that's for respite. And then, you know, just making sure that they completed all areas thoroughly, be it telehealth versus face-to-face, and the 15-minute increments that, you know, if they've worked, let's say 10 to 12, but they're gonna, you know, clock out at 10, you know, at let's say 11:51, their apps are going to tell them to just are they sure they want to do that before the 15-minute increments, because we bill every 15 minutes. So just a reminder to them to kind of keep it clean, to just, you know, make sure they're clocking out within that 15-minute increment of those 15-minute lapse of times. So again, the idea is that they're using the mobile app to report their time contemporaneously, you know, regardless of EVV, they should be utilizing the mobile apps. And though we understand that they may have to access the web portal at a later time for anything that's typically they may miss a punch in, they may miss a punch out, or they may have punched in and out but not entered the goals. That's okay. You can go back to the web portal and revise, you know, your entries. But ideally, staff should be using the mobile app when working with an individual. We talked about the 15-minute increments. Overtime, you know, it's something that unfortunately we can't sustain. It's a couple things. We're going by what the budget has. So if the budget says that a person works 15 hours a week and at $20 an hour, that's what should be provided. That's not to say that, you know, obviously that these budgets are flexible and they're looked at as annual units, but, you know, we should be going by what the budget line says. But again, and I know that some budgets do include full-time positions, which is anything over the 30 hours, but overtime is considered more than 40 hours in one work week. So if our pay period was July 1st through the 14th, and already between July 1st and the 7th, you've worked 42 hours, and that's 2 hours of overtime. Okay, so one work week, 7 days, anything over 40 hours is considered overtime, and we do look at that closely. Ibero has implemented something for us where it actually will not allow the staff to enter I forget, Linda, if it's over the 35 hours or 40 hours. So there's gonna be a hard stop for them.
Yeah, they'll get a reminder at 35 hours, like a prompt, and then at 40, it will be a hard stop. That's not to say that there's not emergencies where overtime is acceptable, and we defer to you on that. But we will need to go in and enter that. So it's just a way for us to prevent that. I don't think anybody on this call has that issue, but we do have some individuals where the families are not, able to be as involved. And so we see, almost feel like staff might be taking advantage, and it's really not necessary. So it's just a way for us to keep track and to keep a hold on the overtime.
Right. Okay. Just a few last announcements. Direct deposit. We're still strongly recommending this. If individuals or families want to sign up for direct deposit, you would contact me. I would then email you an ACH form via Adobe Sign. It has to be completed electronically. And when I received your completed and signed copy, I'm going to ask you for a signed void check or a bank letter to complete the request and forward that to our finance department. For staff, if they're interested in direct deposit, we have them email a copy of their signed void check or bank letter directly to Amanda Williams at HR. They're given this information up front. And this is because we're noticing an increasingly a delay with receiving check reimbursements, and even staff receiving their biweekly paychecks. We're noticing a problem with that. So we're strongly encouraging, everyone sign up for direct deposit. Because another thing I'm noticing, for example, is I may have a family say, we didn't receive, our reimbursement request. We may put a stop on the payments and reissue a new payment. And before you know it, you received the check that we thought was lost, and now you're incurring a bank fee for depositing the canceled check. But you wouldn't know that because you thought that one got lost and you just got the one you were supposed to. It's very tricky. So we encourage the direct deposit.
I'm sorry. Can you verify when you are telling about direct deposit? Can we do direct deposit as a reimbursement? Because right now, actually, it's happened. I got a check something for March, and God knows, I deposit. Maybe it will be, like close check. Who knows? So, besides the employee, can you do direct deposit for reimbursement to the family as well?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Nelly. So you would just, you would email me that you want to pursue that. I would then email you that ACH form, which you're going to completely type out all the information on Adobe Sign. You're going to electronically sign it. And then it's going to send me an email saying that you did this. I'm then going to tell you, hey, send me a copy of your void check. And that's all you need to do.
Yeah. It's wonderful that you mentioned this. That's why when I wrote that it's a typical question, you saw the situation about self-direct in general, and maybe when you're pointed, we didn't know about opportunities. Like right now, you talk about my stuff, but I realize that we can do it for ourselves as well. So thank you so much. And I just want to tell you, this training is extremely important. And when what I mentioned, maybe you can make it another session similar to today in a few months after we will be more proficient and aware, because now I feel much more secure that I'm doing right thing compared with what I did 2-3 months ago, when it's like brokering was for me very complicated. Now it's much easier, and I'm talking about the same other problems. So maybe I'm not the only one. Maybe other parents also have the same issue. So if you can repeat the same type of lecture in a few months, maybe it will be also useful for us.
Yeah, these will be done bi-weekly, and these topics, we go by the topics that, first of all, what we're noticing on the FI end, we need to communicate better to you, individuals and families, but also any topics, you guys want us to touch on, just email us and we'll try to do that. We're going to try to do these sessions bi-weekly, and for anyone that has missed them or you want to go back on the information, they're going to be uploaded on the CFS website. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to ask you one more general question without going to my personal details, just general question. Somebody mentioned to me, some other parents who is also in our CFS and the same FI mentioned to me that if we will hire somebody else who is working already for CFS for other child or something, then the process can be hiring much, much faster because we don't have to go again to fingerprint and all of this stuff. Is it true?
Nellie, yeah, let me just respond to that, a little bit of background. I know we only have a few more minutes, so but a little bit of background on that. So when we first started, you know, again, our core group of families was not so keen on the sharing of staff. You know, that presents a whole new level because, so anyway, what I was thinking about is we do have a Facebook page. So my thought, and I want to poll the families to see what you think, but if we create a Facebook page and we invite all of the families who are interested to join, then you guys can, we can facilitate a way for you guys to say, I have somebody who I only am using for 10 hours. She's great if somebody else is interested. You know, this way it's you guys sharing what you feel comfortable. The other option is you can always send to Jennifer or I a message and we can push it out to all the parents through the portal. You know, if you're seeking somebody who's already hired or if you have somebody who'd like to share. So we're totally fine to do that. So I'll put
Linda,
out
I think it's I think it's absolutely great idea. Maybe, you know, me and some other parents were using Snack, and they did this kind of they did close group for people who is in a Snack, and it start to blooming because we start to exchange because we have similar problem. If we can make a close group with CFS doing self-direct, then we have similar question and we can raise the question and can get an answer without going to individual, you know, without but it's absolutely amazing idea, Linda. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem.
Might do something similar and it can be very, very helpful. And I'm sorry, I listened at the beginning, my son interrupt me all the time. Who is going to maternity leave?
Jennifer.
So yes. Okay. So all right. So I'll wrap it up. I'll wrap it up. I'll get into that. Thank you.
And I think your company is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
With Square Deal, everybody have absolutely amazing family. Faye, Linda, you
Nelly.
Special. In my company, in CFM, we have special.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So I am programmed to be on leave at the end of September. So I'm sure, you know, use and abuse me now. So that's at the end of September, but I just want to start to, what's going to happen is it's probably September, end of December. I've put here, you know, you'll contact Linda or Faye. And you see their emails there. So what's going to happen is come August, I'm going to start to wean in Faye and start to CC her on daily business matters so that we can start to wean her in and not just kind of throw her into the middle of just all this stuff. So that's kind of how it's going to go, just so everyone knows, be it budget amendments, changes, staffing, requests. She's going to start to be CC'd on these matters, okay?
When Jennifer mentioned abuse, I clearly assume it was me because Jennifer clearly know. I'm
joking.
I know, but I am not joking. I will give you everything what I didn't do within a week before pandemic. Before now, I'm sitting at home, you know. But before pandemic, I give you everything. And I open about 4:30 p.m. on Friday. I'm calling Jennifer, so she's like deep breath and answer everything.
I love what I do, guys. So I know I have no boundaries sometimes with the emails and what time I'm emailing you guys, but you know it's I keep the momentum going, so we'll start to wean Faye in without overwhelming her. You know, I know we all have some different styles, but you know, it'll be Linda and Faye. So just, you know, some patience with the turnaround and getting back to everyone. But thankfully we're fully electronic and can have a great communication system. So we're all good. I'm just going to end with sharing our events page and Zoom events for welcome to everyone, families, individuals. You can go ahead and sign in for those. And again, our upcoming parent training will probably, individual family event will be in the next couple of weeks. And before that, we're going to, at that time, discuss a little bit more about OTPS. We're going to discuss a new paycheck system about staff, which is called Paycom. We don't have time for that now, but there will be some things we're going to discuss then. Okay, and that's probably going to be next month after we meet with staff and have our broker training to wrap it all up together.
Just to go back, the virtual events, so we don't have a big presence, which I totally get, but you know, alternating Fridays, I do a great job at bingo. So 5 o'clock today is bingo. So feel free, if you jump on, while you're on the website, Jen, just stay there for a second. So if you go to news and events, you'll see this calendar. If you click into the bingo, you'll have the ability to register for the Zoom and to click in to get a bingo card. So if your children are interested, I do jokes. It's a lot of fun, and we give a gift card. The other thing, while you're on the website, if you want to just go over to, you see the services button. So it's cfsny.org services, and under services is CFS self-directed supports. We've been really working hard to plug everything in here as much as possible. So the whole launch packet, the information that Jennifer gives you during launch, we have the links to the OPWDD documents that we tend to refer to. The hire process is still outside of here, so that's not here. The eViro trainings. So this is for the parent portal instructions, the monthly summary process which Jennifer went over, and the family portal guide that eViro, that's all in there. Then we have the recorded trainings also that we did, one for families and one for staff. So if your staff are having trouble, please send them to do this. To review the trainings. And then we also, when we do these family meetings, I put the recordings here. So the last 2 sessions are already here if you want to, if you didn't participate and want to review them, and we'll add today's meeting in here as well. We do try to keep it to the hour to do a lunchtime call. But you know, I don't know, Jennifer, if you do, but if we have a few more minutes, if you guys want to sign off, you know, thank you for participating. But if you had any questions that we didn't get to, we can stay on for a few more minutes.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to know that, Linda. I thought it was going to shut off on us.
Yeah.
I have to say Zoom. So, okay, great. I'm open for questions. So.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Jennifer, can you hear me?